Good morning. Welcome to this video lecture series on Chapter 8 of the CCNA Routing and Switching course, Scaling Networks, more commonly referred to as CCNA 3. We're discussing Chapter 8 today, Single Area OSPF. There are a couple of subsections, so this video series might be a bit long. I'm still going to try to cover mostly the highlights. I don't have quite the same time crunch I would in an in-class lecture, so I may be able to go into a little more depth than usual, but I will still not be covering every point on every slide. The fact that we've kind of gone to an online format doesn't change the fact, actually it accentuates the fact that it is incumbent upon you as the student to cover this material. To read the relevant section of Netacad, or if you've got the companion guide, which will be this. As you know, I am a big fan of the companion guide. That's how I took this course. I have all 4 of them in Dead Tree Edition. It's Chapter 8 in that book. Or alternatively, if you don't have the companion guide, or if you can't get to Netacad right this second, if you have the portable command guide, look at, I believe it is Chapter 15. Yes, it is Chapter 15, OSPF v2 and OSPF v3, starting on page 139 of the 4th edition of the Portable Command Guide by Scott Empson. It is a very good resource, either for when you're out, whether you're doing the labs or whether you're reviewing the material for a test or you're studying for your CCENT or CCNA. However you're using this material, this is a great place to review, a great place to go back in case you have forgotten how to do something because you haven't done it in 4 to 6 months. So we'll talk about, so what I'm going to cover today in this particular video is just what the rest of the video series is going to cover. So the first thing we're going to talk about is OSPF operation, how OSPF works at a theoretical level. Its characteristics, its features, the kinds of packets it uses, how it maintains its neighbor, establishes and maintains the neighbor relationships, as I've mentioned elsewhere, and analogous to EIGRP, which we've already worked with. The neighbor relationship is the foundation of everything else that the routing protocol does. The only things more fundamental to the EIGRP or OSPF neighbor relationship are lower level things like basic layer 3 connectivity, basic layer 2 connectivity, basic layer 1 connectivity. So if something is starting to fall apart on you, start working your way down the protocol stack from layer, I suppose, EIGRP and OSPF from this point of view are, in TCP/IP terms, they're application layer protocols. That's layers 5, 6, and 7 of the OSI model. Look at layer 4. Make sure that TCP, UDP, RTP are behaving correctly. Make sure your IPv4, IPv6 connectivity is fundamentally sound. When we start talking about OSPF v3, we can start using the fact that IPv6 establishes neighbor adjacency all by itself, even without a routing protocol in play. Even if you're doing static routing or no routing whatsoever, your IPv6 hosts will be doing neighbor solicitation and neighbor discovery on each other to determine what else is on the local link. There's also a layer 2 neighbor relationships using either the Cisco Discovery Protocol, CDP, or Link Layer Discovery Protocol, LLDP. If you're working in a heterogeneous multi-vendor environment where not every device has a Cisco logo on it, If the device doesn't have a Cisco logo on it, it probably doesn't speak CDP. Now, that rule is not ironclad. Some vendors may have attempted to implement as much of CDP as they can, sort of as a quasi-open standard, but the open standard is the Link Layer Discovery Protocol, LLDP. So, section 2, we'll talk about single area OSPF v2, how it works with IPv4. How do you set up a router ID, how do you configure the area, how it determines cost, and how you verify what you've done. Then finally, we'll move on to layer 3, IPv6. We're going to implement a single area OSPF v3. We're going to compare the operations and characteristics of OSPF v2 and OSPF v3. The simplest way to remember, if you're having trouble remembering this, remember that OSPF v2 supports IPv4. OSPF v3 supports IPv6. You divide 6 by 2, you get 3. You divide 4 by 2, you get 2. So we're going to talk about configuring that and how it's different for IPv6. Then we're going to talk about verification. The good news with these show commands is that once you understand the structure of the IPv4 show commands for more or less anything, all you have to do is swap the IP keyword in that show command for IPv6, and it will work the same way. Show IP route is the same. Show IP interface is the same. Show IP protocols is the same. Just change IP to IPv6, and you're golden. I made use of that when I was building my command references for the my hands-on test by just noting that these show commands work with either IPv4 or IPv6. So that's an introduction to what is likely to be rather a longish series. I encourage you to watch the whole thing once, and then afterward, if there's a point you're unclear on, go back and drill down on that particular video. I'll be keeping fairly closely, I think, to the structure of these slide decks. So if you know more or less what you want to look at or what you want to review in the slide deck, you should be able to find that portion of the video. Thank you for watching, and we'll be right back.